pound pieces, right? We'll just put it in by the chunk here. We'll put it in a little piece at a time. Oh, I hope you get this recipe. This will just make your dinner party. Alrighty. While that's mixing, let me clean my hands off here. There's a bubble in it. Now it's going to go. There, we got it. Okay, at the end of about 2 minutes, when this is nice and smooth, we want to add some butter. About 2 tablespoons. How's it doing? You got one more bubble in there? There it was. All right, now we'll get it. Now we're done. Isn't that an awful racket? We now have New York cheesecake. Not what you call complicated. Did you get the recipe? For the filling, we've used 1½ cups of sour cream, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, a full pound of cream cheese, and then at the last we added exactly 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Okay, I'm not going to take time to clean all of this out. The Frugal Gourmet certainly should scrape it out with a rubber scraper, but I'm not going to. All right, you put that in a 325-degree oven for about 45 minutes. And you'll come up with a lovely, lovely cake. It looks awfully wet now, but it won't. It'll be firm and nice. But you have to remember then to immediately turn off your oven and then turn on the broiler and broil the top. That's how you get the lovely color on. It isn't something phony with sugar or anything like that. And the result will be one of these. If you broil the top, you see, you'll get a lovely, what do you call that? Burned sugar and butter fat cover, you see. It looks like lacework. I'm going to put this aside and I'll show you how to do a quickie, because I have another cheesecake here that I prepared for you that's still in the pan. Now, if you don't broil them right away and leave it sit overnight, it's going to crack. But that's all right, because you can still broil it and it'll still look good. I want to do one for you in a hurry here with an old French trick I know. It's the wrong burner here. There we go. Yes, I'm using an acetylene torch. Are you ready? And just take on the old top there. See it browning right away? That's all right. This is done often in restaurants. Nothing crazy about it. And it gives you an interesting kind of speckled effect for a New York cheesecake. Now, in the old days in New York City, Lindy's, which was a major institution in Manhattan, used to serve a cheesecake with strawberry topping. And it was absolutely wonderful. Even in the middle of January, Lindy would have strawberry topping on his cheesecakes. It was a great place to eat. Well, you get the idea. Enough of that one. Got it? It's a lovely, lovely dish, and it's so rich that it'll just make it. One of these will serve at least 8 people. At least 8 people, because it is rich. Cut it into small slices, or you'll simply kill yourself trying to enjoy. Enjoy, you see? Now, let's go on to another one. This next dish is a carrot ring. And while it looks very, very rich, you have to understand that the Jewish household has sweet things on the table. At the same time, they have sour things on the table, because Jews understand that life is really sweet and sour. It's bittersweet. It's like Charlie Brown when he talks about good grief. Or it's like the term the Frugal Gourmet. 2 opposing things come together and helps you understand another possibility for reality. You understand that? Heavy theology today. But it's true. And they'll always have sweet things and bitter things on the table. And this is a sweet carrot ring that's a delight for a dinner party. And it's very, very delicious. I'm going to put 2 cups of shortening into, use vegetable shortening, of course. Don't use animal shortening. 2 cups of shortening into a good mixing bowl. And to that I'm going to add 1 cup of brown sugar. Move a matzo here and find out where everything is. Here we go. 1 cup of brown sugar. 2 eggs that I've already beaten. There we go. 2 eggs and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, of course. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Now we're going to cream all of that. Hardly a technical term, but what it means is you're going to beat it to death until everything blends, and it'll just take a second, and then we can prepare the carrots. Mrs. Baskin, Pearl Baskin in Tacoma, makes this dish for dinner parties. Oh, is it rich. She fed me this the first time when I was just a kid in college. I was literally adopted by a Jewish household, and they changed my life. They taught me so many things about the nature of the table and the history of biblical traditions and the food. Oh, I've never been the same. Never been the same. Okay, there we go. We have in the bowl now 2 cups of shortening, 1 cup of brown sugar, 2 whipped eggs, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. You see, we mix that all up nicely. And now we're going to add to that 6 cups of grated carrots. Now, in the old days, your grandma, if you had a Jewish grandma, you see, she would stand around and work on a carrot and one of these box scrapers, and it takes a long time to do this. I did this in a food processor or with an electric food machine. Works great so that you can always use fresh vegetables and this sort of thing. Now, the 6 cups go right into our mixture here of shortening and sugar and eggs. Okay, there we are. Be gentle now when you start this machine, because it's going to throw the stuff all over if you're not. All right, last bit of ingredients. Now we have to add some flour, and I'm going to add 2.5 cups of flour along with a teaspoon of salt. Here's the 2.5 cups of flour all measured out. Teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Otherwise, this thing's going to be just as heavy as a bomb. There we go. We'll mix all of that up and then add that to our carrot mixture, which looks like it's trying to climb right out of the bowl. Well, no matter. We'll get it down there. There we go. And in goes our flour. There we are. Now, in the meantime, while this is mixing, you want to grease a 3 or 4 quart ring mold. And I've greased it with, again, with the same kind of shortening. And you have to put in quite a bit or you'll never get this rascal out of the mold. And here's the clincher. When Mrs. Baskin told me this, I just cracked up. She puts Wheaties, put about half a cup or a cup of Wheaties in the bottom of the rack, of the pan rather, and it gives you a very crunchy, very unusual topping. This is served as a vegetable course at a formal Nosher's buffet. Okay, here we go. Isn't this wild? But wait till you see the finished product. It's really very delicious. All right. I'd rather talk with you today about some more of these traditions rather than stuff this in the pan, but we'll get it started and you can see how it goes. You understand, of course, what I've done here. Put in the carrots, and then finally the 2.5 cups of flour, along with 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Yes, there is too much shortening in this whole meal. You know, there's chicken fat all over the place, and there's really too much fat. And in our time, people who come from this tradition, who eat this way, you know, among the Jews, even they admit that they've got to knock off. But now and then, in order to remember who you are, you have to eat these old dishes and remember all about your childhood. And I have a friend who came from a ghetto in Brooklyn in the old days when there really was a Jewish ghetto, and it was hard to get out of there. And when she eats some of these dishes, why, we sit there with tears in our eyes and tell each other stories and wonderful things. All right, this goes into a 350-degree oven for about an hour, but you have to put it in a pan of water. So what I would do, you see, was to put my cake mold into a pan and then add to that enough water to come up to about 1/3 of the side of the pan here. There we are. That should about do it, I think. Well, I need a little more. I'm not going to run for water now. We'll just put it in the oven. We can't even get it in that oven. We've got to put it down, so we'll put it in later. Don't think I'm going to let this sit around. The crew here will be interested in that one. And our result, after you bake this for 1 hour at 350, you come up with a carrot ring. That needs something in the center, doesn't it? Let's try some parsley. Parsley is important in the Seder meal. It's used as one of the sweet herbs, which helps us remember all of the sweet things that happened when we were fleeing Egypt in the old days. So parsley is a symbolic vegetable as well as a very great flavoring. Where do I put it? Well, I don't know where I put it. There. The Nosher buffet is ready, as far as I'm concerned. These are some of my favorite dishes. This isn't really a buffet, you understand. Isn't that carrot ring gorgeous? When you cut that, you'll find a very rich, see how rich this is? Oh, it's very, very heavy and lovely. I want to get a chunk out here so you can look at it. There we are. I'll just set it up on an angle for you. There. It's almost like a carrot pudding. Finally, the last thing that you need for a good event with a nosher is a glass of wine. I want to tell you why. It isn't a normal reason. That is to say, most people drink wine because it's nice to drink. But that's not why Jews drink wine. In the Bible, wine is listed as sure and final proof of the fact that God loves us and wants us to be happy. You'll find that tradition in the Psalms. 104th Psalm, remember, wine to gladden our heart, bread to give us strength, and oil to make our face shine. It's a beautiful image. And when temple services begin on Friday night, when Sabbath comes, the service begins with a glass of wine. Why? Well, because in Hebrew, you don't have generalizing terms. You don't have universals like we have in Greek or in Latin or English. So you talk about concrete images. And one of the most concrete images of the wisdom of God and His cleverness, her cleverness, my wife is watching, her cleverness is the glory of the grape. So the service opens up with this toast. Blessed art thou, O Lord God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And then the toast is made. It's good. And then the service can begin. Jews always understand that they're terribly dependent upon the goodness of the Creator, who taught us to make matzo balls and make matzos when we were running on the desert, when we couldn't carry our yeast, when we were fleeing from the Egyptians, you see. And finally, through all of these marvelous traditions, we wind up with the life of the Nosher. And when he eats, he thinks about food, which makes him think about God, which makes him think about his family, which makes him go back to the table, and it all goes round and round, and we have a grand time together. I want you to do that. Make matzo ball soup, make a carrot pudding, make a cheesecake, lovely cheesecake, and celebrate this bit of American history that comes to us from the Jews of Eastern Europe. The Southern Jews, Sephardic, that's another show, that's another time. Marvelous food. Anyhow, I'm going to eat. So until I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. L'chaim. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.